I'm Charlie Funk, and I'm President and CEO of MidWestOne Financial Group, which is headquartered in Iowa City, Iowa. This happens to be my 38th year in banking, and I've spent 18 years in my current job.
My name is Jim Cantrell. I am the Chief Investment Officer and Treasurer at MidWestOne Bank.
My name is John Hank. I'm a Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer here at MidWestOne Bank.
Is Renee Smith-Labarge, and I have been in banking for over 18 years. So my title right now at MidWestOne is VP Treasury Management.
MidWestOne is a bank that was founded in Iowa City, Iowa in the year 1934. It was founded in the middle of the Depression. And for many years, we were an Iowa City bank with our primary shareholders being one family. Today, we are a company located in 5 states. We have offices in 5 states. We're a public company. We're traded on the NASDAQ, and we have 45 offices. Well, community banking, most banks in America are community bankers, and I think community banking is in community. They tend to be more supportive of the community, not just in donations, but also in the time that officers and employees give to the communities. If you would look around our footprint, you would see that almost every officer we have in our company is part of a not-for-profit board, and many of those officers are part of more than one not-for-profit board. So giving back to the community, not just with our dollars, but also with our blood, sweat, and tears. One of the other things that I think separates good community banks from not-so-good community banks is culture. In a nutshell, when people ask me to describe our culture, what I would say is that we have 5 operating principles. Take good care of your customers, hire and retain good employees, always conduct ourselves with the utmost integrity, learn constantly so we continually improve, and perhaps as important as any of the others, the 5th operating principle of work as one team.
Yeah, we have just come through a process where we put together a 5-year strategic plan. There's certainly an organic growth component to that. We are trying to grow through strategic initiatives and tactics, grow wallet share within the markets that we already serve, and through the branches, through the lending operation that we serve in the markets where we reside. That will be supplemented by an acquisition strategy where we will identify potential acquisition candidates, and where it makes sense, through fill-in in-market types of acquisitions, or as we've done in Denver, as an example, an out-of-market acquisition where that may make sense as well. The long-term goal would be to grow this institution to, say, a $5 billion asset bank from our current footings, which are just a little over $3 billion at present. In terms of our ideal acquisition candidate, a candidate might be $500 million in size, so it would be large enough to move the needle, but not so large that it would be a risky transaction. The candidate would have a low loan-to-deposit ratio, because I think as we move forward, deposits are going to become very dear, and that is one of the metrics that we look at that is very attractive to us. Banks who are on our target list who have high loan-to-deposit ratios present a little bit more of a challenge for us in terms of negotiating a price and coming to terms with a transaction.
Well, technology innovation is ongoing, and our industry is changing rapidly. It's always changed rapidly, but I think it's changing more rapidly than at any time during my 38 years in banking. I just read the cover story of this morning's Wall Street Journal that the large banks are way ahead in technology right now. They're probably not as far ahead as most think, but there's a perception among millennials that only the big banks can provide the best technology. You know, the community banks that will succeed in the future are the ones not only that can have competitive technology, but who can also market that technology and convince customers, millennials, as well as persons who are older than millennials, that the technology is competitive. As far as the article in the Wall Street Journal, it's really an alarming trend. Not only have the large banks increased their market share since the onset of the Great Recession, but last year in America, 45% of all bank accounts were opened in the top 3 banks in terms of size: Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, and Wells Fargo. That is ominous for community banks and just shows that we really have to be on our game.
Well, in terms of the strategies that we employ to stay on top of the technology, what we try to do is assess what the needs are, what our current technology is, identify any gaps that we've got, and then try to identify technologies that will help us to close those gaps. Different committees that are involved with the process, but basically from senior management on down, we're trying to solicit input from key stakeholders at the bank as to what sort of technologies they need to close those gaps. And then it's just a means of going through the process of looking at the different options and selecting those that are going to work best for our particular environment and to serve our customer base. In terms of MidWestOne, we're one of the larger community banks in some of our markets. And so that's helped us to be a little bit more advanced because we have a few more resources that we can apply to it. We've been able to apply those in a way that helps maintain our customers. So if they're moving out of market, they don't necessarily have to shift banks because we can service them wherever they're at. Geography is not as much of a factor anymore. From an acquisition standpoint, it's helped bring new customers to the bank because we can serve those customers really anywhere that they're at, just like from a retention standpoint.
I guess one example I would point to where we've seen adoption rates just begin to really spike is on mobile banking as an example. There's a technology where we have a mobile application that will allow a bank customer to transfer funds between accounts, that will allow them to deposit a check simply by taking a photo of the check and depositing it into their account. And my thought is that all the market information tells us that new account openers want and need and have to have that type of technology. And if we were to fall behind and lag behind, and there is some risk of that as a small bank, we don't have the resources that the large banks have to throw at technology, that we could fall behind. That's going to be important for us to spend those dollars on technology to stay current so that we're relevant in the marketplace.
I think the 5 largest banks in America invented Zelle. They've been nice enough, and I think it's in their own self-interest to allow the rest of us now to tag on behind. Zelle is a P2P option, and it's a better option than PayPal's Venmo. If you look at all the statistics and what people value, I think folks are going to find that Zelle is a better way to transfer money. It's real time. It's not delayed for a day or two, so the money's not being held someplace else. Just having Zelle is not enough, however. If we don't market Zelle and if our employees don't embrace Zelle and tell our customers and potential customers about it, then our industry will fail. But given the growth rate that Bank of America and others have had with Zelle, I'm very optimistic that Zelle could be a game changer for not only for MidWestOne, but for banks in general.
I think as a community bank, one of the things that we don't have that could be a drawback from larger banks is that we don't have a lot of in-house services or teams that can develop technology. And so we do rely on third parties and work strategically with them and making sure that we can offer those services to our customers. So third-party vendors are necessary in banking, but I also think there needs to be an alignment of how we work with those vendors and making sure that they're matching our values and our principles as a community bank.
When selecting third-party providers for the bank, one of the primary concerns is looking at it from a risk-based standpoint. And a lot of the oversight and due diligence that we do conduct on third parties are related around security, making sure that they have appropriate controls in place and that they're following those on a consistent basis. Because they're going to be a lot of times delivering those services directly to the customer, which is a direct reflection on us. We're branding those services as MidWestOne Bank, so we want to make sure that they're upholding our service standards as well. Our main third-party provider, I would say, would probably be Fiserv. A lot of different systems that we use on a day-to-day basis here, whether it's our core system or our online banking or mobile banking systems as well. So, and as far as managing the risk associated with a lot of the third parties, we have a third-party risk management program that we have in place that allows us to take a consistent approach to conducting due diligence and oversight of our third-party relationships. And we have to do that on an ongoing basis too. Not only is that a regulatory expectation, but it's just a good business practice.